Hello and welcome to the pre-recorded 2022 Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund pre-application workshop. My name is Barb Pierce. I'm DED's housing specialist for the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Today I will review the 2022 funding cycle timeline, give a brief overview of the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is also referred to in this workshop as the Trust Fund, the 2022 allocation of the state's trust fund, and review the pre-application created in Amplifund. Information on the upcoming open office hours for both the pre-application and the full application will also be provided. Ideally, up to this point, you will have reviewed the application guidelines available online. The guidelines are the main resource for helping you complete the application. You are also encouraged to use the Amplifund resource page. The link to the resource page can be accessed on DED's Trust Fund webpage. This workshop is a supplement to the 2022 application guidelines and is not intended to be a replacement for applicants' review of the guideline packet and addendum. The slides used in this presentation will be provided through a link on DED's website. This is the funding cycle timeline. If you are viewing the application guidelines as a PDF online, you should be able to click directly into the links provided. Do be aware that after publication of these guidelines, the state's primary website underwent a major refresh, which may have broken some of the links provided in these application guidelines published on February 3rd. The Housing Department is continuing to monitor any effect the web page refresh has on our online documents and these guidelines. Any bookmarks you have on a computer browser taking you to pages managed by the state will likely need to be updated. On this timeline, you will find links to the application, due dates for both the pre-app and the full app, dates and times of open office hours, the site review form due date, the rental pro forma due date, and also be reminded that award announcements are not to be expected before July 31st. I'm just going to take a moment to discuss a few of the changes that a returning applicant might notice on this year's application. The trust fund will not require a public hearing or a request for public comment period by applicants in the 2022 cycle. General administration and housing management costs have changes in their maximum and how they are calculated for budget allowance. There's also a change in the support documentation that will be required in reimbursement in these categories if awarded. The 2022 milestone eligibility thresholds are specific to open trust fund projects only. Projects involving rehabilitation of existing homes can use up to $40,000 per unit of trust fund dollars. As in 2021, there are no National Environmental Protection Agency requirements tied to the trust fund. However, applicants need to be in compliance with their DED contract if awarded, and all applicable state regulations, including the EPA's renovation, repair, and painting rule. It is highly recommended that applicants review the lead-based paint Q&A found in the addendum of these application guidelines. Also review the application guidelines sections where the page numbers indicate. The Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund was established by the 1996 Nebraska Affordable Housing Act. It is funded by a portion of the documentary stamp tax from Nebraska real estate transactions. Its goal is to increase the supply and improve the quality of affordable housing in Nebraska and to encourage economic development and promote the general prosperity of all Nebraskans. Nebraskans had an opportunity to provide public comment to the state trust fund's annually published qualified allocation plan during the month of December. Comments are taken into consideration and are included in the final version of the QAP, which was published on February 3rd. This report is also available on the DED website. DED's role in the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund is as an investor and a partner. As an investor, DED is seeking quality applications that will provide the best investment of state resources. And as a partner, DED is interested in providing input early on as possible for project design and in working closely with potential awardees in order to address any obstacles encountered during project development and implementation. The trust fund awards are conditional in nature. This means that an application selected for award is contingent on fulfilling the conditions outlined in the contract. Trust fund is structured as a reimbursement-only award, and recipients are expected to submit payment requests for transacted expenditures only. The fund is expected to distribute $12,750,000. DED anticipates awarding 90% of this, or $11,475,000. This means approximately $3,825,000 is available to each congressional district for the 2022 program year. The remaining 10%, or $1,275,000, are discretionary funds. No restriction with regard to congressional district distribution is made for these funds. They can be used at the discretion of the department. The department intends to use up to $1 million in discretionary funds in conjunction with the 2023 joint application with the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority's 9% low-income housing tax credit program with a maximum project award of $500,000. Access to these funds will be made through the NIFA LIHTC 2023 joint application. For more information, consult the QAP and the application guidelines. Eligible applicants are governmental subdivisions, public housing authorities, community action agencies, 501c3 and 501c4s. These are community-based, neighborhood-based, or reservation-based nonprofits. The eligible applicant may partner with for-profit developers, builders, lenders, human service providers, and state or federal agencies to develop and/or implement the project. Properties previously financed with LIHTC, home, or trust funds that have successfully completed their required period of affordability are eligible. On page 8 of the application guidelines, you will find the eligible activities listed as they are provided in Section 58-706 of the Nebraska Affordable Housing Act. Disaster recovery housing projects and projects that result in new units are both determined to be of critical importance and are included in the Trust Fund's 2022 Housing Projects Funding Cycle. This slide shows a table of eligible activities for the 2022 funding cycle divided by type of activity: primary, support, and administrative costs. These will be discussed in more detail during the review of the pre-application. I just wanted to bring them to your attention as these activities will be synonymous with the budget names for your budget categories when you develop your budget. Applicants apply for any of 4 project types available in a single program year. Each project type requires a separate application to be submitted. Project types include homeowner rehabilitation, which is commonly known as owner-occupied rehabilitation. This involves rehabbing the existing units of eligible homeowners. The rental projects involve new construction or rehab of existing units. The home buyer projects involve new construction or purchase, rehab, resale of existing units, and both may include home buyer assistance. Home buyer assistance may occur as a project of its own. Technical assistance capacity building is applied by the eligible nonprofits who will use trust fund funding to increase the capacity of an organization that will assist in producing affordable housing units as a result. Please review these and the eligible costs found under Application Guidelines Section 6. Matching funds are not a requirement for the 2022 funding cycle. However, applicants providing match are joining DED in the investment of resources and risk, and therefore they are awarded points for taking on such. Match is considered cash available at the time of application. The cash may not be a loan or repaid to another organization. Only project-related costs that are incurred by the applicant are eligible. An all-cash match must be expended by the DED recipient during the contract period and in proportion to the amount of trust fund project costs drawn down per line in the contract budget. For consistency, to determine whether funds are considered match and eligible to receive match points, all the following items must be met. The funds are unrestricted cash funds available at time of application. The project-related costs or the invoice must be incurred by the applicant during the contract period and after release of funds. The project-related costs or invoice must be expended by the applicant during the contract period after release of funds. Applicants must use the required DED cash match documentation form that can be downloaded within the application. Please review Section 7 of the application guidelines for more details on matching funds and leverage. Housing project applications meeting basic threshold requirements will be reviewed and scored by DED on a competitive basis according to the selection criteria matrix. The department will make best efforts to allocate not less than 30% of the allocation to congressional districts 1, 2, and 3. The main criteria these applications will be scored on are project design, need and impact, project financing, capacity, and collaboration. Projects meeting the disaster recovery criteria will receive 10 points. It is important to note here that in order to define this as a disaster recovery project, the project area must not only be in a declared county, but the activities and the beneficiaries need to be clearly central to disaster recovery efforts. Points are also scored according to affordability period, new units created, and the amount of matching funds. Total points available are 510. Applicants must score a minimum of 240 total points on the application in order to be considered for an award recommendation. On page 19 of the application guidelines, the trust funds program legislation regarding first priorities is described. At time of full application, applicants will be asked to indicate whether they fit any of the legislative first priorities, such as being located in an enterprise zone, an opportunity zone, or an area declared extremely blighted. For more information on this, please see page 19 of the application guidelines. The technical assistance projects are scored in 4 categories: performance plan, which was formerly called the goals and work plan, impact on housing production, sustainability, and organizational and financial management. These have not changed since the prior year. The maximum points available is 500. If applicants have any open Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund awards, these awards need to meet the milestone thresholds given on the table by the time of the pre-application due date of March 3rd. If the milestones will not be met by March 3rd, the applicant must upload to the pre-application their DED housing milestone plan outlining how previous trust fund housing awards will be in compliance with the milestones by the date of full application of May 5th. This table shows the threshold review criteria that every application must meet in order to be considered for scoring and award. At the conclusion of the application period, the department will conduct this threshold review of all applications received. Clarifying information may be requested of applicants, and when providing clarifying information, applications may not be changed or altered. Award announcements will come sometime after July 31st. For more details on scoring and the award process, see Section 9.2 of the application guidelines. This slide includes resources that are useful for getting started with your AMPLA-Fund application. As already mentioned, it's important to review the application guidelines throughout the process. The AMPLA-Fund resource page includes a user guide and several training videos, and DED recommends these be viewed prior to starting your application. You may want to bookmark the AMPLA-Fund resource page on your computer browser for easy referral. This slide is a snapshot of the AMPLA-Fund resource page. Frequently asked questions is very helpful. You can use the Getting Started video to help you register or to understand how to use the applicant portal. There's also the ability to watch videos regarding different sections of the application. These are not going to align perfectly with your application, but they can be helpful in understanding the navigation. Also on the other side, there's the browser troubleshooting. Would say that Internet Explorer is not recommended as a browser. Instead, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and Firefox are the recommended browsers when using AMPLA-Fund. There's some general errors that document that can help you if you are struggling with errors as you work through your application. This slide has a few tips for getting started. Remember that the applicant must fill in all required questions. They are marked with an asterisk. This will allow you to proceed from section to section. Once a section is completed, mark it as complete and select Save and Continue to be automatically forwarded on to the next section. Review and download a copy before submitting. Save often as you work on application within Amplifund to avoid unexpected loss of input due to the platform timing out. Follow all directions within the application itself, and the guidelines may provide additional detail or clarification as needed. When you first enter the application, you will come to Opportunity Details page. This is basic information about the application cycle. There is nothing to be completed on that page. You will simply click the Save at the bottom to be taken directly to the next section, which is Project Information. On the Project Information page, you will be asked to name the application, which you can find the details on how to do that on page 25. You will be asked the amount requested for the trust fund. Your cash match will be entered, and the primary contact will be entered here as well. The first field to fill in within the project information section of your Amplifund application is naming your application. Please follow the rules on this slide and on page 25, naming application. As you can see, your pre-application should have the acronym Pre App in the front of the name. Following that are the last two numbers of this plan year, 22, then NAHTF, then the name of your organization, the housing type that you will be applying for. In this case, HB stands for home buyer application, and NC is the activity. In this case, a new construction. Your activity might also include home buyer assistance, and so in that case, you would add HBA after new construction. When you go to fill out your full application, please simply take off the pre-app and leave the rest. This is a snapshot of the project information section. As we just discussed, the first field is the application name. Next is the award requested. This is the amount of trust fund dollars being requested, and it includes both the project costs and the administrative costs. It does not include the match. The amount of match to be contributed gets input at this field. Match is not a requirement, so this may be allowed to stay at 0. Next, fill out the primary contact information, including the name of the person who should be someone on staff with the applicant organization. This person can be different than the application preparer, which will be asked for in another section, but it does not have to be a different person. The primary contact will be CC'd in all application correspondence from the department. Once filled out, mark it as complete and hit Save and Continue to proceed to the next section. Application forms is the next section. There is only one part within the pre-application. You will find that the full application has 4 parts. So next you will click into Part 1, Pre-application. The applicant information section requests contact information for the applicant organization and for the authorizing individual. The authorizing individual is the person authorized to sign contracts and other legal documents on behalf of the organization. For a general local government, it is typically the chief elected official. For all other applicants, it is the person given authority to both submit applications and execute contracts for state funding. This individual is responsible for giving the application preparer consent to submit the application. Next is the preparer information. The application will ask you to verify whether or not the application preparer is on staff for the applicant organization. The contact information will be requested for the preparer. Following these are the district indicator, the service area indicator, and the project housing region indicator. The district indicator is referring to the congressional district where the majority of the project will be taking place. This is not necessarily the district that the applicant organization is located in, but rather where the majority of the project units or beneficiaries for this proposed project will be served in. If there is some question as to which district to choose, please reach out to your housing program representative to discuss. Following the district indicator is the service area. The top half of the selection box lists county names, and as you scroll down, you will see it turns into city names. Applicants should select either counties or cities to define the area that the proposed project will serve. Select all possible areas that will be eligible to be served by the proposed project. This area does not have to reflect the total service area of an applicant organization. This service area should match the area of eligibility described in the program guidelines, which are to be uploaded during the full application. Do not include any county or cities that will not be eligible under your proposed project. You can choose more than one county or one city by holding down Control or CMD for the Mac users in order to select multiple names. Lastly, the applicant is asked to select the region that the project will be in. This map shows the housing program representative regions. Applicant will select the region that the proposed project will be serving in. Applicants should choose more than one region when a project will be serving in more than one region. One last question that will be asked in this section is whether an applicant organization will be applying for more than one project. If the answer is yes, a separate pre-application will need to be submitted for each proposed project. Under the project activity section, this is where the applicant will identify the application type. Is this a housing application or a technical assistance application? Depending on your choice, the correct questions will pop up. For this example, a housing project is being selected. Then, does the housing project include disaster recovery? If you click yes, a link to a map to verify that your county is in a disaster recovery county will pop up. Then you will select what type of housing project you are applying for. Is it a home buyer project, homeowner, or rental? It's important to choose correctly as the questions are specific to the type. This example is showing a housing rental project. When rental is selected, the choice opens up the section for development pro forma. Only rental projects have a required form for their pro forma, and these rental pro formas need to be submitted by March 31st to your housing program representative for review. Applicants can download the spreadsheet directly from the application, or you can also find it on the Trust Fund's webpage. Non-rental projects do not have a required pro forma template, and they are encouraged to work with their project partners to prepare one for the full application. Following the pro forma section is the activities list. These activity names will also be the budget category names. Applicants should select only those activities to be funded by the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund or by match, or both. Activities solely funded by leverage sources or have already taken place should not be selected. You can see these are separated into three categories: primary, support, and administrative. At least one primary activity must be selected in order for a project to be eligible. In projects that combine homebuyer assistance, there may be two primary activities selected. Homebuyer assistance may also be a standalone project activity. The support activities listed are ones that the department will require to be listed as a separate budget line item. For example, in a new construction project, if trust fund dollars will be used for acquisition, The budget shall track the acquisition cost as a separate category under support activities. However, if the project is a purchase, rehab, resale project, the acquisition cost of the existing unit is not tracked in the support activity acquisition line, but instead it is included in the budget line under the primary category of purchase, rehab, resale. Does the proposed project include new construction, rental rehabilitation, conversion to housing, acquisition of land, or infrastructure improvements? If yes, the note pops up to remind you to download the new fillable form off DED's website. It's named the Nebraska Site Review Form. In order to have the site review completed and back to applicants in time to upload to their full application, the department asks that the site review form be submitted as soon as possible. The final date of acceptance is March 18th. Remember, this is a new form. Do not use old site review forms from previous years, or you will be asked to resubmit. Next up on the pre-application form is the project description. Here you will be asked to name the project developer. Also, will trust funds be used to fund a developer fee? If yes, the question pops up, what is the total developer fee budgeted for the project? How many trust-funded units will be completed in your project? And lastly, what is the maximum targeted area median income percentage for beneficiary households for this project? Choose from either 120, 100, 80, or 60%. This is the maximum targeted beneficiary. A narrative in this section of the pre-application will allow for the applicant to describe any additional prioritized area median income targets, if applicable. Total development costs will include all project costs, including leverage and administrative costs. Insert the total development costs in this first field. The next one is total project costs. Total project costs are the trust-funded primary activities plus the trust-funded support activities. This amount does not include trust-funded administrative costs. Following that, you will be asked to input the total of the trust-funded administrative costs. This is general administration plus housing management plus lead-based paint, if applicable. Here is a place for you to add additional housing project information. You will be providing a short narrative with additional details about the project. Please answer all of the questions listed, such as describe whether any units will be prioritized for a lower area median income than the maximum that was stated above. You also list the development team members, giving their names and describing their respective roles in the project. If any member of the development team is unknown at this time, then please state that and why in the narrative. Describe a basic timeline for how this project will progress, keeping in mind that the release of funds generally is not expected before 12/31/22 on majority of projects. Of course, that depends upon the type. You may also share any additional details of significance about the project in this portion. Applicants with current DED housing awards through trust fund must meet the milestones outlined in the table by due date of the pre-application, March 3rd. Applicants that have an open DED housing award through the trust fund program, this includes any that have not received a certificate of completion, will need to fill out the grant table below. The grant number, the funds awarded, the funds drawn, the percent of funds drawn, and then declare whether it meets the required milestone. For any awards not meeting required milestone by March 3rd, the applicant must provide a detailed plan outlining how that housing award will be compliant with the required milestone by the date of the full application, May 5th. At the Choose file, that is where you will upload the DED housing milestone plan. You will have now reached the end of part 1 of the pre-applications application form section. If the application preparer is not the authorizing individual, they are attesting that they have authority to submit on behalf of the applicant. Read the terms of acceptance, type in the first and last name, select the electronic signature box and the date signed. Then scroll down, mark as complete, save and continue in order to be taken to the next section. The last section to be completed in your pre-application is the budget. This is fairly simple, as you simply are going to input the same activities as were chosen earlier. You will see that items 1 through 4 are the primary activities, items 5 through 9 are the support activities, and the administrative costs are 10, 11, and 12. If this is a technical assistance application, you will only be using line item 13 to input your budget. When you click on the plus sign next to a budget category, this screen will show. The category Homebuyer Assistance is going to be the exact same name that you will input on this line. The direct cost is any trust fund request for that line item budget plus any match. If there is match, you will be turning this into a yes, and it will pop open a space for you to add the amount of the match. You may add a descriptive piece in the narrative box if you desire. You do not have to add any detailed line items on this budget. Simply rename the line item the same name as the category. Then click Create. Once all the activities have been added to the budget that were requesting trust funds or using match, you should be able to find a 0 down here at the bottom, meaning you have a balanced budget. There is a budget error guide on the Amplifund resource page if you have trouble getting your budget to balance. You may also contact DED.support@nebraska.gov or ask your housing representative for assistance. Just a reminder, your line items will rename the activity name, and you are only expected to have one line per activity. The last section is the Submit section. Here you may click Review, which will allow you to download your application. It is highly suggested that the pre-application and the full application be reviewed and downloaded, and that the authorizing individual has a chance to review it and give consent to submit. Now I'm going to take you back for just a moment to project activity and to the example of when a technical assistance project is selected. You will see from time to time that there is some awkward space. Be sure to always scroll down to the bottom where you will find Mark as Complete and Save and Continue. So for the technical assistance project, there are 4 activities listed. You can select all that apply. Improve current services and activities, planning for a new program, service, or project. Are you expanding the service area and have costs related to that? Are you building capacity to undertake new activities? This application for technical assistance should support an eligible nonprofit organization that will engage in the creation of affordable housing. The goal of the technical assistance project is to substantially increase the recipient's ability to produce affordable housing. Applicant will be asked if there will be any housing study, surveys, or other data that has been developed and will be submitted to support your application. You simply check yes or no so that the department knows whether or not those will be coming in the full application. You also provide information on the project, including but not limited to the following 3 bullet points. Provide summary of the project and how the funding will be used. Describe how this technical service project will impact the housing need in the identified service area, and identify team members and describe their role in the proposed project. This is a very high-level view that you are going to be providing in your pre-application. You will have more specific questions to answer in the full application. The proposed plan of action for the technical assistance project is asking for 3 to 5 action steps to be listed. These are steps that will be accomplished as part of this project and also give an approximate timeline for achieving each step. The full application will request additional details on the implementation plan for the project. But for the purposes of this pre-application, this, along with the narrative, gives the department a good summary of the scope of the project, and it provides some background for your housing representative if you should be setting up a one-on-one call with them to discuss this while preparing for the full application. Technical assistance applications must also be subject to the DED Housing Award eligibility milestones. So follow all the directions as previously described in the workshop. You must also fill this out even if you had done so on a housing application. All that remains now for completing the technical assistance application are these last steps: the electronic signature, completing the budget. Remember, that's line item 13, just one line item called technical assistance. Also, you will then go to submit by reviewing and downloading before you hit the submit button. Your timeline will have every item marked with a check mark before you enter the submit. Pre-applications are a requirement. They are due Thursday, March 3rd by 6:00 p.m. Central Time. The system will not allow pre-applications to be submitted past this time, and all pre-applications are prepared at the applicant's expense. No hard copy submissions will be accepted. This is again a list of the resources available to applicants during the application cycle. Application guidelines should be followed closely, and the AmpliFund resource page consulted for using the AmpliFund grant management system. If you need assistance, you can contact the DED.support@nebraska.gov for AmpliFund issues, or you may contact your DED housing staff. This slide is showing the open office hours. The pre-application open office hour is February 22nd from 9 to 10 a.m. Central Time. You can register by clicking on or going to this link. The full application workshop recording will be available March 11th. The full application open office hours will alternate between morning hours and afternoon hours, March 15th, 16th, 22nd, and 24th. Again, you may pre-register and are encouraged to submit questions ahead of time. Also, the applicants are expected to watch the full application workshop recording prior to joining the open office hours. Lastly, I'd like to remind everyone to stay informed by joining our mailing list. You can click here on this link to join it, but you can also find it on the state's website in the bottom right-hand corner. This concludes the pre-application workshop. If you have questions, please email or call your housing program representative or myself, Barb Pierce, housing specialist. And also remember to register for the pre-app open office hour, February 22nd at 9 a.m.